Alright, peace be upon you, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Just wanted to make a quick announcement in this video letting you know the book is complete, a complete refutation of Christianity and an instantiation and defense of the Quran alone position. And the book is available for free in the description. The first portion of the book is dealing with all of the myriad claims of contradictions and errors in the Quran that these Christians make. And then the second portion is my own criticisms against Christianity and the Bible in general, showing how, objectively speaking, and there's no doubt about this, the Quran is a superior text to the Bible. There's no two ways about it. And you'll notice that the second portion of my book is a lot shorter than the first one, and that's because I know there's so many arguments, or like the second portion I'm saying, the part where I'm specifically dealing with Christianity and the Bible and showing why the Quran is superior. The reason it's shorter is because it's still potent, but I understand I can make many arguments and show many more contradictions in the Bible. It's filled with them, but I didn't want to hamper it down. I should say I didn't want to fill it with so much clutter. I stuck to what I believe are the most potent, the most relevant, and irrefutable, unassailable arguments against Christianity in the Bible, and I just kind of distilled it down and made it as concentrated as I could, just dealing with the foundations of their religion. So the problems with Paul, the idea of blood atonement and faith alone, works, the idea that Jesus is the Son of God, the idea of the Trinity, all these things that are foundational to the Christian worldview, which if you were to reject, you would not be a Christian anymore. I just deal with those in what I believe, like I said, is the most potent way possible. And what I want to do now, so what's next? What's for the future, Lord willing? Well, my plans are to, firstly, I want to get off the internet just for a little bit, a week, 2 weeks, and you guys are still going to see me upload. I record all of these videos in advance and I upload them later on. I have a whole bunch in store for you guys, which I can just keep uploading, but I'm not going to be responding to any comments, really any emails for the next week, 2 weeks, God knows best, because for all of you people who watch content from guys like me, Brother Sam Garens, Brother Igor, the guys at Endgame Islam, intellectual work, it really drains you more than any hard workout, more than any boxing match I've ever been in, more than any strenuous labor that I have suffered to endure. Intellectual labor, it burdens your soul. It's not a burden, I should say. You consecrate these efforts to the Lord, and you do them so that the Lord, you hope, will be pleased with you and to deal with falsehoods that you find particularly pernicious. But it does take a lot out of you. It really does. And I just want to take some time, and I'm not saying this to show off to you guys. I just want to let you know what's going on and perhaps inspire you guys to maybe do this in your life. I want to kind of recalibrate my compass. I want to dedicate some time, a week, 2 weeks, completely away from the phone, other than little things like uploading videos and, if my wife messages me, she needs me to pick up some apples coming home from work or whatever, things like that. But, just any YouTube comment section lurking, any scrolling through YouTube, any inward traffic, whether it's emails or text messages from people who are not in my immediate circle. Just I want to block out all of the noise and spend some time really drawing close to the Lord in fasting, in praying, thoughtfulness, and I want to just purify myself and do my best to prepare myself, Lord willing, for what's next, what I plan to do, to enter into the right state of mind and have the right temperament of soul in order to do what I want to do in the future, Lord willing, which I'll tell you. But I want to go for that, just a dedicated, deep fast, not just refraining from food and eating, but refraining from informational gluttony, which a lot of us suffer from. Even though we don't eat and drink, let's say we're fasting for a certain day, we don't eat and drink, but we still suffer from informational gluttony. We just consume too much content, which, even if it's quote-unquote educational, you might be quote-unquote learning something. I learned today that dung beetles like to fight each other for a ball of turds. I learned this like couple weeks ago, a month ago, that dung beetles, not only will they roll up the ball of turd, they'll actually fight each other for them. It's pretty funny. But, you know, we learn useless information like that, and things that bring pretty much no benefit to ourselves, and it is a form of distraction. And like I said, I want to purify myself, draw close to the Lord, and just cut out the noise for as long as I need to, maybe a week, 2 weeks, until everything becomes clear, until I'm in the right state of mind. Then, Lord willing, I want to resume back with the public work and the witnessing. I want to be calling my society to the Lord and I'll be uploading all this stuff for you so you guys can see it, and hopefully, Lord willing, take advantage of that in your life, or do that in your life as well. But I want to be calling people to God. I want to be going to these mosques. I want to be going to these churches. That is the Quranic paradigm. That is the Quranic mission. And I hope to be in the right state of mind when I do it this second time. You know, people will think that's crazy. I get criticism so often for doing this, but that is what the Quran talks about. You'll find this construction over and over. Oh, my people, oh, my people, oh, my people. God calls us to be firm and strong, kind, but kind and peaceful witnesses to him, and just starting conversations about God with the world, starting conversations about the hereafter, starting conversations about our ultimate final accountability. We are called to do that in our own personal life, even with, if you feel like going that far, like the way I do, with strangers, even do that kind of thing. This is all throughout the Quran. This is all throughout even the Gospels in their corrupt form today have this as well. Jesus was performing the God protocol. He was going from town to town, city to city with his disciples, calling people to the Lord. And then he says that, you know, if people don't receive you, no problem. Just wipe the dust off your feet and go to the next city. He was spreading the gospel, the kingdom to come. And that is the exact same message we find in the Quran, going from town to town to the people surrounding you and warning them of the Lord and calling them to their accountability. You even see in the Gospels where Jesus says when a certain city or place rejected him, he says something to the effect of, it'll be better on the day of judgment for Sodom and Gomorrah than you, that you'll be dealt even more severely than Sodom and Gomorrah. He's warning these people. That is the prophetic mission, and that is the mission we carry with ourselves. And the reason why I stopped doing that for a little while was because I found in my first round of witnessing and going on public and talking to people about God, I kept encountering these pernicious Christians. They kept coming up to me with all their criticisms against the Quran. The people who are actually, oddly enough, the people who are most interested in speaking with me are these like neocon, conservative, conspiratorial, oftentimes flat earth Christians. I met quite a few flat earthers out there as well. But they're just pushing their Jesus idolatry on me. They want to see me on their team of, you know, worshiping Jesus Christ. God forbid, I'll never do that. I worship the one true God and ascribe no partnership with him. But that experience of encountering Christian after Christian after Christian, it inspired me to write this book, which I'm giving to you right now, because so this way I don't have to deal with it over and over on a one-to-one basis. There's a complete, clear, concise summary of my reasons for why I can't believe in the Christian religion, and I can't believe that the Bible in and of itself is a complete scripture, or that it has any comparison to the Quran. So this way I can send these guys a link, maybe say one or two things to them in person, and then have them on their way. I don't want to get into this on a one-on-one basis anymore. I wanted a compendium of knowledge dealing with this controversy. And now that that's complete, that's something I want to do. Just go out second round with a newfound wisdom, hopefully, that God gives me, newfound purity, and a newfound base of knowledge. These books that I've written, and now on this newfound knowledge, to stand on this platform and speak in perhaps a more authoritative way than I did before. And another thing I'm interested in doing is what I mentioned in a previous video, that on my spare time as well, whenever I have some time, I want to read other sacred books from around the world. The Dhammapada, the Sutras. I want to read, I've gone through the Bible. I'm very familiar with that. What else is there? There's the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata. There's even the Sikh book, the Guru Granth Sahib. I just want to read all of the sacred books around the world and just see where they find parallels with the Quran and where they differ. I've just been very, very interested in this. Uh, the Hadith has this stupid closed mindset of, we are the people who believe in the Quran and everybody else is a kafir, which is just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. These old books have obviously, it's not for no reason that they've been around for such a long time. The Dhammapada, the Bhagavad Gita. Not everything they say is correct. The Quran is a standard. It's the Furqan by which we judge everything else. But there's no way, there has to be some kind of, or actually a lot of timeless, perennial wisdom, ancient wisdom within these books, that they would survive for so long and that civilizations would be built upon them. God says in the Quran that the truth remains in the earth and vanity vanishes away. If these things were all vain, it was just the mindless babblings of the kafir, they would be gone. They wouldn't be around anymore. But the fact that they've been around for so long, they have to have a lot of perennial truth within them. Certainly many things in line with the Quran. And it is those very things which I wish to investigate and, Lord willing, share my findings with you. And so that really summarizes it. Now that the book is out, to spend some time drawing close to my Lord till things become clear. Then I want to, on weekends, whenever I can, go out doing public work, witnessing, calling people to the Lord, going to the mosques, to churches, warning my society around me, inspiring you hopefully to do the same, and also study the scriptures that exist in every tradition around the world and seeing where they come in contact with the Quran and where they deviate. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's really all I got to say on the matter. I hope this talk was a blessing. And yeah, peace to you. Remember, deceit abounds, so keep your eyes wide open. Peace out. Peace and blessings in the name of the Most High, viewer. My name is Walid Naeem, and I am a zealous submitter to the one true God, the creator of all mankind. Do you notice something wrong with the world? Something strange? Despite us having a church, synagogue, and mosque in every neighborhood, how has this entire Western civilization fallen into abject atheism, nihilism, and savagery? Why does life just seem so dull, so meaningless, and so devoid of anything real in the Occidental world? Despite the ubiquitous presence of these religious institutions, why are our so-called Muslim sons in large numbers drinking, smoking, partying, and chasing after women, with no seeming desire to do anything more with their life other than satisfy their base pleasures, when God has commanded them to be clean, righteous, and responsible leaders of their community? And why are our hijabi so-called Muslim daughters walking around with tight jeans that reveal their figure, with TikTok accounts posting semi-provocative, self-absorbed videos of themselves online for the world to see, when God has commanded them to lengthen their garments and be modest in their mannerisms? What has happened here? These young men and women are supposed to be making themselves right before God while raising the next generation of ardent defenders of the holy faith. But it seems that Islam features no more in their lives other than a scarf on their head, a Friday fidgeting around in the mosque when their parents forced them to go against their will, or a decorative hanger in their car. At this rate, if God allows us to continue going down the road it is, then Islam and the Quran will become pretty much non-existent in the lives of most of our descendants, if it wasn't already non-existent now. If we do not take a stand soon, in a few generations our children's children will likely be indistinguishable from the secular West. Is that the kind of world we want to live in? Our kids to live in? A world practically devoid of the remembrance of the one God and all things sane? I obviously can't speak for you, but for my own self, I can personally say, count me out of it. I'm not going to sit here and just watch my brothers and sisters, those who claim to believe in God alone, believe in Judgment Day, His prophets and angels, and all the other aspects of this holy creed, get duped into going to hell. I'm not going to let this happen without at least something of an effort on my end to reroute this dark trajectory. So, again, how in the world do we end up here? There is a mosque in practically every neighborhood in the West, and no shortage of donations that get dropped in their boxes. They have had lots of funding, lots of time, and unquestioning support from their respective congregations, yet somehow have been run over by the secular atheist. All of their so-called Muslim children go to the atheist, secular public schools for most of their week to be taught beliefs that are completely incompatible with the Quran. And we wonder why they have ended up the way they are. If these houses, and by these houses I mean the mosques, were truly of God, that were doing everything right, then why would our Lord let them get so decisively trampled upon by their enemies? Why do the wicked have all of the reins of power here? Clearly, something is not adding up. Well, it is my thesis here today that the vast, vast majority of mosques that exist in this world today have lost their way and follow a religion which is completely foreign to the Quran. This is why they have failed so miserably in the West, and it seems that God has forgotten them. In truth, the real reason behind their shortcoming is that they, and many of us, have forgotten God Himself, which is why He has left us here collecting our bitter receipts. So, what are my exact criticisms of the mosques today? As a Muslim and a man committed to the truth above all else, what are my personal gripes with their institution, which claims to be for God? The first glaring problem I can think of is that the majority of people who call themselves Muslim have allied themselves with a body of literature that is foreign to the Word of God, treating it equal to, and in fact above, the Quran itself. Of course, I am talking about the Hadith. Listen, the facts are this. There is no justification within the Quran which tells us to follow this hadith stuff, which came hundreds of years after the Prophet Muhammad died, and therefore he could have had no ability to oversee what people have said about him and determine if it is true or false. It is now becoming crystal clear, especially in the last 10 to 20 years, that many things that have been ascribed to him in their most quote-unquote authoritative texts, which they call their Sahih Hadiths, are forgeries that directly contradict God's final revelation. To take these words of men, i.e. the Hadith, and hold them to be equally authoritative to the words of God would be breaking the first and most important commandment, which is to worship God alone, making no equals with Him. To say that these supposed words of Muhammad, which are not even Muhammad's own words, but simply very doubtful rumors about what people who existed hundreds of years after him say he said, that have been decided upon by the scholars as authoritative, holds equal, or in fact any weight in our faith comparable to the verbatim words of God Himself, the Holy Quran, is idolatry. You are exalting man's words to the status of divinity, which should only be given to God's words. Nothing comes even close to the Quran, because God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, is its author. This includes the Hadith too, which pales in comparison and is superfluous to the glorious Quran. If you are interested in seeing a full refutation of the Hadith, you may watch my video titled A Defense of Prophet Muhammad, David Wood and Hadith Exposed, which is linked below. In it, along with refuting and putting in his place the worst opponent of Islam on the internet, Mr. David Wood, I also expose how the Hadith is completely contradictory to the Quran and the source of much of the Muslim world's problems. It is a 2-hour-long documentary where I seek to demonstrate the true character of Muhammad in the Quran, defending his history and personality with primary source quotations. I clear the last prophet of God's name from the people who have tarnished his reputation the most, which are certain types of Christians, and, sad to say, Hadith-following Muslims, which have said many terrible things about him. No, Muhammad was not a money-hungry, tyrannical warlord who married a 6-year-old girl. He was a shy, humble, meek man who married adult women, had compassion for even his worst enemies, and oftentimes had a tough time even standing up for himself out of fear of hurting other people's feelings. This is all demonstrated in detail in my video. Once again, the link for that will be in the description under the tab, The True Character of Muhammad in the Quran. So that is the first problem with the mosques, the reason for which I feel they have been forsaken by God, their adoption of an apostate literature which contradicts their foundational scripture. The second point of contention I have with many of the mosques is their seeming unwillingness to say anything controversial which may make them face persecution from their government. The fact that 9/11 was not only an inside job, but the fact that no planes hit the Twin Towers on that day, and the whole charade was a hoax designed by the governments of the world to forever frame the Muslim people as terrorists and justify invasions in our countries, should be taught to every man, woman, and child. This great fraud of the September attacks has left such a lasting, enduring reputation on every brown person, and Muslim in general, that it should be discussed in every mosque. Our people are not responsible for that crime, but it was the governments of the world who carried out that plot and framed us for it. 9/11 is just only one small example, though. There are many, many other quote-unquote conspiracy theories, which are really just conspiracy facts, avoided by the mosques due to their controversy, like the fact that the monetary system in the West is an ungodly scam based on usury, the fact that the so-called healthcare system is a predatory empire which doesn't try to cure anybody, but instead makes money off of human suffering, the fact that sodomite propaganda is being promoted to the masses, including our children, and the fact that the thing which I will call the C19er, to avoid censorship, was a hoax perpetrated by the powers that be to greatly expand their police state, censorship incentives, and surveillance systems worldwide in order to create their new world order, and much more. These governments that have occupied our lands are de facto terrorist regimes, and the mosques seem to say nothing of it. They appear to be more concerned with not being labeled extremists while they live their comfortable, well-funded lives, avoiding topics that are hard to deal with due to the abject persecution they bring. That is my second problem with them. They're at the very least lack of awareness, or if not, perhaps lack of willingness to address the real geopolitical situation going on in the world. And lastly, my third trouble with the mainstream mosques, which can also be put into the category of conspiracy facts, is their complete ignorance on the true nature of the earth. It may sound as a shock to you, my viewer, that the Quran, the Bible, and in fact all of the ancient scriptures teach the earth is flat and stationary. This is the only model of the world which is compatible with those texts and also scientifically provable. This flat earth conspiracy, which should really be called the globe earth conspiracy, is one of the biggest lies of the modern world, we are told, and goes in line with what I said earlier about the endemic corruption of the governments of the world. Everything you have been told about where you live is a fabrication, and the space agencies are a shameless hoax. For a fully detailed presentation on the subject of flat earth, where I demonstrate the science, the history, the philosophy, the verses in the Bible and Quran proving it, and much more, you can read my book titled The Flat Earth Manifesto, which is linked in the description. This work runs to nearly 1,200 pages and is practically a textbook on not only the topic of flat earth, but the subject of physics proper, and I expose the biggest fraudulent religion of the West, which is science worship, otherwise known as scientism. As with all of my work, it too is available for free. No, you do not live on a pathetic speck of dust spinning around in the middle of nowhere in space. You live in a brilliant, intelligently designed terrarium created by God and are at the center of the universe. Again, to learn more, the link to the Flat Earth Manifesto will be in the description. Those right there are my three biggest scores against the mosques of today. There are more points I could bring up, but these are the major ones. These are the controversies which have estranged me from the rest of the so-called Muslim world. Believe me when I say that I would love to join them, and that it hurts me so deeply that I have to pit myself up against the very institution I was born and raised in, the mosques I attended from childhood, whose carpets upon which I walked, stood, prayed, and listened to the preaching in my earliest years. But that is the price to pay for the truth. My commitment to God and what is right is more important than my emotional attachments to a place that was once dear to my heart. Simply put, this is why I think God has forsaken us. This is why I think that the mosques have been steamrolled by the secular atheist. It is because most of us have abandoned the word of God, neglected preaching the truth, and instead chosen comfort over courageous action. That is my thesis to why this great falling away in the West has taken place. If this sounds shocking to you, if it sounds so unbelievable that the majority of the so-called Muslim world could be deceived so badly, then I simply have these verses in the Quran to show you. In the name of God, the Almighty and the Merciful. Chapter 6, verse 116. And if thou obey most of those upon the earth, they will lead thee astray from the path of God. They follow only assumption, and they are only guessing. Chapter 25, verse 30. And the messenger will say, O my Lord, my people took this Quran as a thing abandoned. God has really predicted this a millennia ago. He knew that the people who follow what is really right are few and far between, that the majority of men and women are led astray, and the people who claim to love Muhammad the most, i.e. mainstream Muslims, would abandon the glorious Quran. God has revealed to us 1,000 years ago that this all would be the case. It is my mission, therefore, by the will of God, to band together with like-minded believers who have understood the truth and work together to build a new institution from the ground up, founded upon prudent fear. We need to start fresh, start anew. We need to build a new mosque where people can hear the unfiltered preaching from the Quran alone, where men and women can get married, where children can play and be educated in the truth, and where the name of the Most High God, without any associate partners, can be remembered. We need a group of highly dedicated men who will raise and defend this institution with their own hands if need be, and go out into the world warning people of the punishment of God, bearing witness to the truth of his oneness. That is my mission, my viewer. If you found that this mission of mine has touched your heart and is something you want to get involved with, then feel free to contact me in the email below. I am located in Ontario, Canada, and I'm looking forward to form a community with like-minded believers who want to contribute to this great cause. I am neither a nationalist nor racially biased. If you follow the Quran alone and believe in the truth, then as far as I'm concerned, you are my brother in the faith. I prefer you over someone of my own kindred who denies God and commits corruption in the earth. My loyalties are primarily ideological, not racial. Remember, my viewer, that this life is short. Everything we do and don't do is recorded by God and will either bear witness for us or against us on the day of judgment. Hell is eternal, and I do not know about you, but as for me, I want to meet my Creator in the best state possible. I want to spend my life struggling to build up my people, the true Muslims, so that God may be pleased with me on that day. If you are interested in that, then feel free to join me. If not, then find something else good to do which will prepare you for your appointment with the Most High. That is where we are all going anyway. With that being said, I say peace and God bless to all of you good people. Take care, everyone.